Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy. Host Josh Guesman coming to you on a wonderful Thursday, January 14th. LA Galaxy get some signings under their belt. The roster's starting to fill up, so we're going to talk about that. Got an update on Cristian Pavon. Going to talk about Jonathan Klinsmann and some David Bingham. We have second kit colors that have been released. We'll talk about that and tell you something about the first kit as well. And then a roster update coming. So we're going to update the roster, talk about a whole bunch of stuff to do it. All right, to help me do all that, the Hammer himself, Eric, the Portuguese Hammer. How's it going, buddy?
It's going very well. I'm glad to be back. More off-season hot talk. I feel like I say this all the time. How we're going to fill an hour, and then we have two new signings, some uniform updates, plenty to talk about. The Galaxy are officially 365-day a year subject that we can fill plenty of content with.
Somebody said, "Hey, could you do a podcast about the LA Galaxy every single day?" And I'm like, Absolutely. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, would it be an hour long? Yeah, probably. Could you do like a whole radio segment? You know how like radio shows are normally like 3 hours or so, 3 or 4 hours in block. Somebody asked me, could you do a whole radio show every single day, filling 3 hours talking about the LA Galaxy? I mean, we're in the off season, so the answer is yeah, probably we could do that. Not a problem.
Absolutely. I think with Chicharito's Instagram and that's enough to keep us fueled for at least an hour, and then you can add everything else on top of that. Yeah.
It is absolutely. Well, we hope everybody's staying safe, doing well, staying healthy. A lot of stuff going on around California. I know that. So hopefully keep our fingers crossed. Or we're coming through this. I don't see that, but I'm going to just pretend blind optimism that we're going to go through this. So a lot of stuff swirling around the LA Galaxy. There are certainly some Cristian Pavon rumors. I want to start there. We have to talk about this. This is, the elephant in the room. If you listen to the Monday show, Kevin and I went through and told you sort of about the allegations and the sexual assault allegations levied at Cristian Pavon. We told you about how they went and released something for his lawyer, or from the lawyers saying, that they're fully cooperating and they're going to make sure that all this stuff is taken care of. And that they're not afraid of this and that they think the accusations are false. So we saw that. And if you listened on Monday, you heard my take, Eric, which is their LA Galaxy aren't under contract with Pavon, don't need this, don't need to take the risk, and don't need to do any of that stuff. In my opinion, they put down the pencil and the pen, and they just put it down on the table, and they just walk away from the table, and they go and they find other options, and they go and they just move on with their lives, because this is not the PR nightmare that they want to dive into, because you don't know what's going on. I mean, what are your thoughts on it? People heard me, go on for like an hour about it on Monday.
Yeah, mine were kind of similar, because I believe the news was either Saturday evening or Sunday morning when the allegations came out. And I kind of, to be fair, and I'll be honest with myself and critique myself, I maybe rushed to judgment a little bit and said, if these allegations are going, then Pavon just can't be an option moving forward. You have to take these allegations seriously. And if it turns out to be true, like you said, I made the same point, there's no current ties to him. So if there's no current ties to him, and there's even a small percentage of a chance that this is something that could be true, then it's not worth the risk, in my opinion. I think, given on how a lot of these things play out, and there's a delay, there's a reason why there's a delay for these allegations to come out, oftentimes out of fear. There's a lot of different things, retaliation. There's a lot of different reasons why there are delays. So it's, the argument that why wait a year, why wait until this time, there's been a lot of theories or a lot of cases where that's been the opposite. But I think with recent things that have come to light, and, he is denying it, and the things that we've seen, how we've seen and had interactions with Cristian Pavon, and the evidence that appears to be being brought forward by the accuser, things don't necessarily look as cut and dry. Like that's a simple, you need to walk away. So it does get into that choppy water territory. But I think, that's why the Galaxy maybe were right to kind of hold off, and maybe I rushed to judgment a little too quickly. And that's why you wait and see how these things pan out. And right now it looks like, Pavon's not 100% in the clear, but it looks a lot less damning than the initial allegations seem to be.
Well, the big sort of, and I want to say revelation or thing that was released today, was that the accuser put out on her Instagram, and that's how she's been leveling most of these charges and talking, and trying to really tag Boca and get Boca to respond and do a whole bunch of things. She released a picture of her and Cristian Pavon together. I am not a forensic photograph analyzer. I want to make that clear. I can only use my two eyes the best that I can, and sometimes I can't even tell that it's Eric over there that I'm talking to. So, there's certainly some level of, this is what I'm seeing, and I'll tell you what I see whenever I see the picture. I don't see Cristian Pavon. It really doesn't look like. I mean, the hairline is different and changed, and that was supposedly a year ago or 2 years ago, I guess, 2019, December of 2019. So really, it's a year, December of 2019, and right around now we're in January of 2021. So really, just a little over a year ago, that his hairline has changed. The facial features, the face changed probably because it might not be him.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. Like you said, we're not forensic experts, but if that's the evidence that is being brought forward, it really doesn't look great. And you don't want to make light of any of these situations, but it just there were some pictures recently where some of the Capitol protesters took a picture, a selfie with Chuck Norris, and it's like, that's definitely not Chuck Norris. And it just had that same kind of vibe, that feel like, here's my picture to prove that it was Cristian Pavon, and you look at it and it's like, that does not look like Cristian Pavon. So if that's the evidence, it doesn't look like it's either case of the wrong identity situation. You hate to say it and you hate to see things like this, but it's not not uncommon when there's a celebrity moving forward that there's possible extortion things that come forward. So who knows what it is, but it looks the evidence that's being pushed forward isn't necessarily, it doesn't look very strong.
I want to say 100% from my side. I'm not saying I've changed my mind at all. I still don't think the LA Galaxy should be anywhere near this. You're not under contract. He's not your player. You do not have to stand behind him. He's a great player. I'm not going to say he's a potential MVP of Major League Soccer on a good team. I know that. He is better than most of the players in Major League Soccer. He probably doesn't deserve to play there for very long if he does end up coming. So I'm still in the camp of there's no reason to even risk this. I mean, okay, let's say we're wrong about the picture. And this all comes down. And now, the LA Galaxy have gone out and spent anywhere between $8 and $10 million. And then he comes onto the team and you have to deal with this PR nightmare after you had Katai with the PR nightmare before. It just, for me, there's so little upside outside of the fact that you could have a potential MVP and he could help you win an MLS Cup. I mean, if winning is everything, then it's a pretty big upside, right?
That is a big upside, and that's an argument for. But you said it, and you took the words right out of my mouth. And there's winning, and then there's wanting to win the right way and have a certain type of culture of your club. And I believe Kevin mentioned it on Monday. The Galaxy, hold themselves differently than some other clubs. So I think holding yourself to a higher standard isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm also seeing some people in the chat who maybe haven't seen the photo. I guess it was deleted. But if you go to the Discord remembers all. So the Discord, I believe, has it posted, or if you ask around for it, it is in there. So it's just, it's unfortunate, the situation. I think no matter which way you look at it, I think you're right when you say if they wanted to drop it and keep moving and move away from it because you don't even want that, 1/10% of a chance, and because then that could come back and you have to buy your way out of it again, like you had to do with Katai. So that'd be fair too. But if you look at the evidence that's being presented forward, you take the relationship that you have with the player and his legal team. If he feels like he has a lot of legs to stand on, and the club wants to back their player, that's fair too. I don't think you can get mad at the club for making that decision either.
Well, I mean, I've gotten into it recently. Somebody wanted to, compare this to the Kobe Bryant situation. And I said, you didn't spend hundreds of $millions and he's already under contract. That's not what has happened. You literally can walk away and it costs you $0 and you never have to come back. All right. Hey, do you want me to do some, do you want me to do some reporting now instead of me just babbling on in circles about why I still believe that I'm right from Monday? Let's do that as well.
Next? Yeah.
The LA Galaxy are watching the situation closely. They don't want to make any decisions without without understanding all the facts, which I think is fair. And certainly there's some time here to be able to figure that out. It feels like there's not a lot of time, and that's if the league actually starts on time. However, we don't think the league's actually going to start on time, so there's probably a lot more time in there. So, the Galaxy seem to be preaching patience at this time right now, which is patience. We're going to look at the facts. We're going to say it. They're certainly aware of situations, especially in Argentina, where extortion is the case. And so they're keeping that open and an open mind. Okay, so knowing that that's the LA Galaxy mindset, and Kevin said on Monday that they were still in the discussion. So I think that my reporting sort of just trails right along that. They're thinking about it. They're milling it over. Mm-hmm. Nobody's in any rush. Let's talk about what actually happened today with Boca and Cristian Pavon, and that is that Cristian Pavon went, and I have been able to at least let's see, how do I say this? The LA Galaxy certainly believe that this is true. That's what I'm going to say, is that Cristian Pavon has told Boca he doesn't want to play for them. That was reported today on Twitter, a bunch of different places, that Cristian Pavon went up, told the coach at Boca and said, hey, listen, you're cool. You're nice. I think you're a fun guy to be around, but I don't want to be here and I'm out. I do not want to play for Boca. And by going that, Eric, and by saying I don't want to play for Boca, he's done a couple things. He's put himself on an island now, which is, if you say you don't want to play for that team and you're there in Argentina, then you're a persona non grata anymore. You should not be there. They don't want you there. So that's one thing. And he probably can't stay in Argentina either. So he's really made his choice that he wants to not play there. Doesn't mean to play for the LA Galaxy. Although I think that's certainly his preference right now. But that's something. So he said it. He wants out. He doesn't want to play for Boca anymore. That is at least verified to the point of that the LA Galaxy believe that's true.
Yeah, if you're the LA Galaxy and someone who's making decisions, you really have all the leverage in this situation. We speculated that the Galaxy had all the leverage going into this because we were told that he wanted to stay in LA, but if he's explicitly come out and said that to the Boca Juniors coach, and with everything else that's kind of swirling and going around, then the Galaxy truly do have all the leverage because at the moment it also looks like there are no other offers for him at this time. So that was the one dark horse, was if the Galaxy aren't going to be able to get this deal that they want on Pavon at a reduced rate, we were hearing between $8 and $10 million, that's where they wanted to settle and they weren't going to go any higher. The danger of that was there can be another club with deeper pockets who's going to come in and swoop them away, and that would be that. But it doesn't look like that's the case. So with no other suitors, a player who's made it, has explicitly said that he doesn't want to play for the team where he's at right now, the Galaxy really can call all the shots. And like you said, with the work stoppage that's possible of happening and the season not looking like it's going to start, at the end of the month, like, some people are saying, then they have time to wait this out. And if this is something that drags out a month or two, I think that works in the Galaxy's favor. And then you always have backup plan. And I think I mentioned this last week, butts and seats, you're not going to have fans in the stands until the summer. So you really can wait until the summer to make that big flashy DP move. If it doesn't work out with Pavon, you really have until the summer to make that move. So I think all the leverage is in the Galaxy's hand here.
It feels that way, and they have the ability to sort of wait it out. I will tell you the LA Galaxy are looking at other options as well. Not all the eggs in the Pavon basket. An understanding that they have other options, that they have an open DP spot. I mean, there's some reason to be excited about all of those things. So we'll see where it sort of goes. I mean, Eric, I think the biggest thing for me is that I am torn between bringing back Cristian Pavon, known commodity, know what he can do. Understand it's going to cost the Galaxy a lot of money, but maybe not as much as originally thought. Maybe somewhere between $8 and $10 million, which is a lot. And I'm torn with the unknown hope that is out there, right? Yeah. Like maybe you could get somebody better than Cristian Pavon. Maybe you could get somebody who pairs really well with Chicharito. Maybe you could get a second striker, and then all of a sudden you're playing a 4-4-1-1, and like all these things start. We joke about it. It's the hope that kills you. It is the stuff in there. It is the little bits of things that you look at and say, well, the Galaxy could improve here or they could improve there. So there are things to look at there whenever you go, but it's hard to turn down the known quantity, which is Cristian Pavon knowing how good he is. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then another check in the 4 column for Pavon is if Vanny has made it clear that this is going to be a 2-3 year project before the Galaxy really become serious contenders. Maybe they're not contenders next year. With Pavon's age, if you offer him, a longer term deal or maybe something that's, 3 years, you can have him as that consistent backbone to build your team around. Someone with his talent, I think if you're building around him and putting players in that, he complements well, I think it's easier to fill that in than it is to try to bring someone in new who's going to be the all-star that's going to bring it all together. I think Pavon could be someone that you can build a team around. And then the elephant in the room becomes, Jonathan Dos Santos and Javier Hernandez. They're now taking up DP slots. So do you find other ways to get around that as well? I think that's no secret that, at least around Galaxy circles that I talk to, getting Jonathan into that TAM level and freeing up that DP slot, that'd be a dream scenario. So then you could bring in someone else, but that's later down the road. And I don't know how realistic that is, but I think you do eat up the third DP spot with Pavon, but at the same time, if you're building for the future and Chicharito and Dos Santos maybe go on later on and you still keep Pavon, that'd be a piece that you'd want to keep around soccer-wise.
Yeah, the JDS TAM hypothetical Horatio that we play around is one of those. I honestly think that it may have been me who started that rumor too, that it's something the Galaxy could do. It's a hypothetical case. Nobody's actually ever done that. We haven't seen it with the buy down with extra years, but because MLS is all about the average of the contract years, it is, at least in my mind, technically feasible. I don't know if the MLSPA and I don't know if Major League Soccer, I don't know if Don Garber would sit there and go, no, Josh, you can't do that. Don and I don't really talk much.
Veto.
Anymore, so. yeah. He may just
offer you
veto.
$1 billion.
Yes, exactly. So I mean that's sort of where you say it's a theoretical idea, but it has never been proven to actually be a thing. So we'll see if the Galaxy. By the way, I think Jonathan Dos Santos is out of contract after this year. Is that 5 years finally? Did we finally make it 5 years?
And maybe 4. I want to say it was 2017 may have been. Yeah, so maybe one more year after that. But at the same time, to my point, he'd go before Cristian Pavon's contract would be up. So you'd be betting on Pavon rather than Dos Santos and hoping in Pavon's second or third year is when you bring in that final piece, as opposed to, making it all, try to make all the square pigs fit in the round hole now.
Yes. I think it's 5 seasons. So you have to count the 2017 season. So 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21.
Okay. After 2021. Yeah, you're right.
After,
you me.
But it could be like the summer. It could go around again to the summer because he was a mid-season. I don't know if they gave him straight up 5 years or if they gave him like 4.5. Who knows? Because we never know the actual contract. We thought he was done like forever ago, and he just keeps showing. He's Jorgen Skjelvik without being Jorgen Skjelvik. He's Jonathan Dos Santos.
He's a well-liked Jorgen Skjelvik.
Yes, much better. So we'll see. Okay, so that's where we sit with Cristian Pavon. That's sort of where I stand. Now, the LA Galaxy came out, and if you listened on Monday, we told you the LA Galaxy would be announcing the Villafaña signing, which they have, and we told you that they would be announcing the Jonathan Bond signing, which they have. We thought Jonathan Bond would be on Wednesday. Instead, it was on Thursday. So as we're recording today, it was announced this morning. We thought Villafaña would be Tuesday. It was Tuesday. So we just got one of those right as it goes. So Villafaña is an interesting signing. So let's start there. I know we've talked about him on a bunch of different shows, but now actually with the LA Galaxy, he's expected to take up the left back role. He is expected to take over for Insua, and Insua is for all the information that I can find, Insua is not coming back, and it wouldn't make any sense for him to come back because one is I believe Villafaña is going to be an expensive signing. It's not cheap. It's not like you got him for $250,000. I believe he was making somewhere around $600,000 with Portland in 2019, the last year that we had numbers. So even if he takes a dramatic pay cut, you're still looking anywhere between $375 and $450, in my opinion. So it's not it's not outside the realm of, of possibility that he's still that expensive. I think some people thought, that they were getting him for like $225,000, and that's not the case. He is a more expensive signing on the defensive side than I think a lot of people expect, but that's okay because he brings a wealth of knowledge about the league. He's been in the league for a very long time. He knows how to win. He's won an MLS Cup. He won in Liga MX as well. Whenever he was there, they won a championship with the club he was with there. And then he came back, and hey, you can make fun of the MLS's back tournament all you want, but Portland won the MLS's back tournament in difficult situation. He has the mindset there, and now that you see that, Villafaña could very well be a very important part. At 31 years old, Eric, the wheels are starting to get a little rusty. But they haven't fallen off yet. And he was a good player whenever he played against the LA Galaxy. So, I mean, I can't see a downside to this. I feel like they're saving money on Insua. Even if it's a straight swap out, it's a win because Insua took up an international slot and Villafaña didn't. But I expect Villafaña takes up less. So, I mean, what are your initial thoughts on Villafaña?
If you would have cut yourself off just 25 seconds, I was ready to make those points that that even though Insua is gone, and even if you think Insua is at equal level, this doesn't take up an international slot. And if you think 500,000 or 600,000, whatever he was making in Portland, if you think that's expensive, Insua was very likely making a lot more than that. So you're still saving in the long run by switching to Villafaña. And I think. What the signing reminds me of, him being an Anaheim native, it's kind of like that Sasha Kljestan signing from last year. Sasha Kljestan made a very positive impact with the team, I think, but maybe on the field wasn't where that positive impact was. But I think being 31 and having a lot more minutes and reps under his belt that he can still put in full 90-minute performances as compared to someone like a Kljestan, I think you're going to get that same passion of someone who's back home, excited to be back home, having that little extra pride for playing for the Los Angeles club, and then being able to contribute and do a good job and participate and be a great source on that left side of that left back position. Because if you look at his highlight reel and what he does well, it's pushing up, sending crosses in, being a part of the build up and then transition into offense. Obviously as a defender, you make your defensive plays, but the way the game is played now and what we've seen in recent years, that's really where your outside backs bring the most value, is moving forward. And he's proven that he could do that. So that to me is what makes him an exciting signing.
All right, the chat room it feels like they have once again outed me as not knowing my LA Galaxy history. They have pointed out that Giovanni Dos Santos was brought in as a designated player. Omar Gonzalez was a designated player at the time, but he was converted down to TAM. Now listen to the words I just said. He was converted down to TAM. Because his salary, while it was more than the maximum budget, which qualifies you to be either a designated player or, at the time, the brand new targeted allocation money, it did not go above the ceiling of the targeted allocation money, which is why they basically were able to say, hey, we know we had you as a DP, but now with all this money, we can just say you're a targeted allocation money player. That is not the same salary. Yeah, it's same salary and it's just under TAM. That is not the same situation as Giovanni Dos Santos, whose salary is above the max ceiling of the targeted allocation money, and you would have to give him more years at a lower rate, and that's the object here, is the more years at a lower rate to convert him to a targeted allocation money player while he still has a year left on his contract. That's the impossible parts that we've never actually seen anybody do. Theoretically, it works because of the average, but I'm not sure MLS sees that as the way it actually does. So I win. Once again, I'm smart for this 2 seconds. Anyway, back to Villafaña. Yeah. So this makes a lot of sense to me. Again, a local guy, so I imagine you got a local discount. I personally believe that this deal had been in the works for a long time. So I don't believe this is a straight up, hey, I want to play for Greg Vanney. This was a straight up, I want to play for the LA Galaxy and play in front of my friends and family from Anaheim. So in my mind, it makes sense. The player wants to be here. Sasha Kljestan. It's one of those places where you can look and say, I think the LA Galaxy did a good job. I think this is a good signing. I thought Pipo Gonzalez was a good signing. As a matter of fact, Pipo Gonzalez was a good signing. There's nobody here who doesn't make that choice. It just hasn't worked out. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you sit there and you go, okay, this everything makes sense, and now you're going to go ahead and do it, and then the player doesn't perform. Eric,
and all hope is not lost on Pipo Gonzalez. There was a glimmer. There was a glimmer of hope that he may have figured it out, and shifting him to that right center back position may be beneficial. So there, if you're a complete homer like me and throws all caution to the wind in this preseason when nothing else counts and there's no games and no evidence to throw against you could argue maybe we get a bounce back season from Pipo, or we finally start to get the Pipo that we thought was going to show up. It's still possible, not likely, but still possible.
You know what? I'm Team Pipo this year. I think Pipo's going to have a good year. Listen. I mean, we're going to go over the roster here, and I'm going to tell you that the LA Galaxy need another center back, and then I'm going to tell you that they don't need a starting center back. They need a backup center back, another backup center back. That's what I'm going to tell you. And then all of you are going to go, "Oh my God, this guy is a moron."
I'm going to monitor the chat.
You have a starting lineup. We'll get to that as well. So anyway, Villafaña comes in. You look at the left back role right now. Without Insua, he's gone. You're going to have Danilo Acosta. He's coming back. You expect him to be the backup left back. You have Didi Traore, who is the backup left back. What the LA Galaxy need on the right side is a backup right back, because they have a starting right back in Julian Araujo. But see, the backup right back is more important because we know Araujo's not even going to be here for very much of this time. He's going to be gone for considerable amounts of time. So the backup right back ends up being way more important than the three left backs that you already have on the roster. I mean, that's just, again, jumping ahead.
This is something that would be upsetting to Galaxy fans. It definitely would be upsetting if Julian Araujo is listening. Your backup right back, really, you should be bringing in a starting right back, and maybe Araujo is kind of like your backup, and I'm using air quotes here. Araujo's your backup because he's not going to be with the team, for the next 5 years. So you bring in someone who can be a starting caliber right back, understanding, and then maybe if they're okay with backfilling, or maybe you say you're going to split a lot of time this season because Julian's going to be gone. So I think you're really looking for a starting level right back.
Maybe you're probably going to have to go older though, right? Because you can't get a starting level right back that's young or in prime, because technically they're not the starter. Because Araujo has to be the starter. You're developing that talent. He has to be the starter. But you're right. He's not here. So
I think like someone like Villafaña is a Villafaña type. You can get someone like that, of that caliber. Maybe isn't that household name, but someone who's a league veteran, knows their way around, has been a starter at other teams. I think there are players out there that you can get to fill that role.
Going to be interesting. All right. So Villafaña signs. We know that the LA Galaxy, I mean... I had people arguing with me. My life sometimes it drives me. I don't know. This is obviously my cross to bear. I'm certainly not complaining. But people want to argue with me that Villafaña is not a good signing because the LA Galaxy had to give up a number 6 overall draft pick. And I'm like, when has the draft been useful? Since Tommy Meyer was drafted by the LA Galaxy was the last time it was actually useful? Unless you're getting one of the top 3 spots, you're probably not getting somebody who can impact your MLS team. People are skipping college to play at academies and play overseas and do other things. So the college draft is lacking, I think, a lot of that developed talent anymore. When the LA Galaxy had one of the better picks recently, Eric, who did they pick?
Tomas Hilliard Arce. So I think this is where I thought you were going to steal my thunder here, but I get to say it. The draft picks are useless. They're hit or miss. You never know what you're going to get. And even when you do have a top pick, there's no guarantee that it's going to pan out. You look at someone like Tomas Hilliard Arce, who is already out of the league. Look at someone like João Moutinho, who was the number 1 pick before Hilliard Arce. He ended up getting traded. He's in Orlando. Some of the players who have been successful, Chinishiki in Colorado, Mason Toy, who's in Minnesota, Chris Mueller, and those were later picks. And I think that's that's almost in favor of the Galaxy, that maybe you get lucky. One of these guys drops because they're kind of that diamond in the rough. Maybe they fall under the radar, and that's someone who you maybe can make work. It's not usually those top picks in college. For one reason or another, it doesn't really translate, and that they're not super successful. So I think getting rid of a draft pick, and the way trends are going, I don't see the draft being a viable option moving forward. I think the Galaxy, with the academy that they've built up and the type of players that they're bringing in at 16 years old, 15 years old, going through the academy, getting their reps with Galaxy 2, I think that's where the Galaxy is building. The draft really doesn't matter for them.
So the LA Galaxy gave up by the way, again, I was actually getting argued with about this, but the LA Galaxy gave up a number 6 overall, so natural selection number 6 pick in the first round for a number 16 overall selection in the first round. So they dropped 10 spots, and they got Villafaña. I'm telling you right now, MLS has this rule that whenever you whenever you trade players who are under contract, that something has to be exchanged. You have to give something. That's why sometimes it's like $50,000 in general allocation money, nice round number, and it's done. That type of thing. And in this case, it was less than that. It was 2 first-round draft picks where you dropped 10 spots. All right?
Yeah.
In any league, well, see, that's not even true. I mean, in every other American sports league, the draft actually means something. In Major League Soccer, it is stopped meaning something. So this means nothing. The draft picks were sort of like, here you go, and here you go. It's like changing cards on a table. It was nothing, and now you have Villafaña. So the LA Galaxy got Villafaña for nothing, and he was under contract. And basically, Portland wanted to rid themselves of his contract number. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And that's why
More
they
than
wanted
the
to
draft pick.
Yeah, exactly. More than the draft pick. They don't care about the draft pick. I mean, watch, they'll probably pick the guy who starts, and everybody will be like, I told you.
And that's the funny thing is now I think the chat is blowing up with all the people from the super draft who have been successful recently in MLS. And it's not that they're not in there. It's just, it's not like the NBA or the NFL draft where, you're getting a full class of people who are contributors for the team. You're getting 4, maybe 5 players out of the whole draft who end up, being a strong part of their team. It's not a large number. It's a low risk proposition to get rid of those picks.
They can't all be Charlie Rugg, Eric. They can't all be Charlie Rugg. Right? Let's put it that way. All right. So that's what you get with Villafaña. Again, I think he's going to be good. Veteran leadership, knows how to win. Greg Vanney will use him well. You can just sort of feel that. Now let's talk about the other signing the LA Galaxy had, Jonathan Bond, and of course all the James Bond jokes have already been made. We made him on Monday. It didn't stop you guys from starting them all over again today whenever he was announced. He's 6'5", 150 pounds. By the way, let's just break this down for a second, okay?
Yeah, the physics.
Yeah. So I am 5'11 3/4, but let's round it down. All right. Nobody really cares about that quarter of an inch anyway. Who wanted to be 6 foot? Not me. 5'11. Let's just call me 5'11. So I am 6 inches shorter than Jonathan Bond. Okay, fine. That's good. Not a problem. I understand that. Half a foot shorter. I weigh 50 pounds more than him, and he was 6 inches taller than me. If the wind blows real hard, does he just float away? Is he gone? Is that what happens? I mean, 6'5", 100. That has to be a typo. He has to weigh 180. There's no way you could be 6'5", 150 pounds, Eric. That doesn't make sense.
I think you're looking at this like the regular dude looking at it. I think these are professional athletes, and I actually had someone send me a message today. Jonathan Bond, per his Instagram, not afraid of a shirtless pic. So we may have Rolf's replacement on Instagram already. So I think someone like that who it's lean, it's muscle. We'll find out if he could sing. It's lean, okay. It's muscle, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. If you look at someone like Bingham, you look at Jonathan Klinsmann, that's the body type for a goalkeeper. It's long, it's lean, that's spider, daddy long legs look. And I think for a goalkeeper, that's okay. It's fine. You want someone who's long and has big limbs, and doesn't carry a lot of weight. I think that's a good thing for the goalkeeper position. So I'm not as worried about that as you are.
I don't know why, but I'm cracking up with you explaining these wafer thin like wisps of goalkeepers and everything. It's all right. It's all fun. It's fun for me. I enjoy it. But no, you look at Jonathan Bond, and this is an interesting player for me, Eric. This is an interesting signing for me. Only because, yeah, 6'5", 150 pounds. Sure, there's there. The bigger part of this is, he's a former Welsh youth international. He's a former English youth international. He has some experience there. We've talked about him playing in League One, so the third tier of English football. We've talked about him playing in the Championship. He doesn't have a lot of EPL experience, except for the fact that he played, I think, in 15 cup games overall. So he does have some of that experience. He's a guy who's been playing for their reserve team. So I am very much I like to see guys who play. And so this makes me a little nervous that he doesn't seem to be playing a lot, but he is playing. It's just not at the top level of wherever he was at. So reserve team, League One, Championship, that type of thing. I think all that's fine, though. 27 is still youngish in keeper years for guys who play till they're like 45. So I can see Jonathan Bond being a good one. And then you go into this and you say, okay, he has an American mother, which means he holds a U.S. passport, which means he's a domestic player and doesn't take up an international slot. Eric, if you were an MLS team, would you have a list of American players, or at least domestic eligible players playing around the world that you would track? Wouldn't you do that?
I was going to say, isn't Jonathan Klinsmann on the roster? That sounds like someone who may, know that there's an American base in Germany with dual nationals who's able to come and take advantage of that loophole. We saw it happen with Jurgen Klinsmann during his tenure with the U.S. national team. So it makes perfect sense that would be something that MLS clubs would keep track of, is international level players.
Oh, maybe we lost you. Maybe you didn't. Maybe I just lost you, and I'm talking over each other, and we're all sitting here wondering whether or not it's working or not. But anyway, yeah. It looks like Eric, you're freezing
American connection, so you can kind of take advantage of those loopholes because we know.
Yeah, it's fine. No, we you're right.
Back.
That is what you need to do. You need to look at at how they go about these things and sort of what happens and all those different things. But I'll tell you right now, and I can confirm this, the LA Galaxy had that list of players that they are tracking that are domestic eligible, that can come in and not take up, international slots. So that's what they did here. And in my mind, this has been missing from the LA Galaxy, it feels like, in recent times. But they went out and they did it and they got it done. It's funny that you have two goalkeepers now that are both named Jonathan, which means that if you put both Bond and Klinsmann into a barrel and then rolled them down the hill, there would be a Jonathan on top the whole way down, which I think is an interesting way to look at it.
Is that an old phrase? Like,
that's a political.
I don't think I've ever heard.
You've never heard that? Oh, that's a political joke. And the whole there, and it's off color, so I can't repeat it. But if you go and find it, yes, there's a Jonathan on top the whole way down. They didn't use the Jonathan thing. I just added that part in. So anyway,
sure.
But we talked about Jonathan Klinsmann as well. And the reason that we can talk about them is that Kevin confirmed, and now I can go ahead and extend this, is that Jonathan Klinsmann will re-sign with the LA Galaxy. So if you're looking at signings that are going to be announced coming up, that seems like that's one of the ones that'll happen here in the next couple of weeks, I'm guessing. Who knows? It could take all the way to May. I can't keep track of how they decide to when they do this. But one of the reasons that Jonathan Klinsmann had his option declined is that it was rumored that he had a high second year, or a high option year for him. And so the LA Galaxy didn't want to pay that option year. And if they didn't pay that option year, then they declined it. They could renegotiate that particular contract. So it seems like that's what has happened. And Jonathan Klinsmann looks like it'll be Jonathan Bond and Jonathan Klinsmann, really sort of duking it out for that number one spot. Let me be a little emphatic about this, is that Jonathan Bond is not coming in as the number 1, and Jonathan Klinsmann is not coming in as the number 1. They will figure out what happens between them, and one of those guys will probably be the starter for the LA Galaxy. As it stands right now, Eric, that seems to be it. This seems to be your goalkeeping core. That's your number 1 and your bench guy. It's one of those. Jonathan will be on the bench, and Jonathan will be starting.
Yeah.
That seems that could change right now, but that's where we're at. With that. So yeah. Are you okay with that?
I think the one thing that gets lost in the shuffle here, Klinsmann, Bond, whichever one it is, more importantly, Bingham is out. And I think that is really where the rubber is going to meet the road, is because if you believed, was it the defense or was it Bingham? This is going to say it doesn't matter about the goalkeeper position. It's maybe is going to be a focus on the defense. I obviously have made it known I wasn't necessarily Bingham's number 1 fan. So seeing him go, I think it's fair to test Klinsmann and to bring in Bond and to see who else you can plug in there. Because I think Bingham proved that to me that he just wasn't the answer. He wasn't the answer long term. He wasn't the answer short term. It just didn't seem like it was there with Bingham. I didn't see it with him. So it's exciting to bring in the new core. The one trepidation is you are getting, a couple of backups traditionally backups going for a starting spot. And that's the part that makes you nervous. Last time we had this experiment, and I think someone dropped it in the chat, the Carlo Cudicini experiment, someone who was a bench on a European team. And you think, well, they were playing in Europe, they were on the scout team. This is a high level goalkeeper, let's put them in the starting position. So that's the one thing that we've done before, and it didn't turn out very well. So that's the one thing that scares me about Bond is he was a backup, wasn't getting playing time. And I think with goalkeeping, if anything's proven, it's playing time, even if you're getting peppered with shots, is better than riding the bench. So that's the one thing that makes me nervous. But I think more importantly, Bingham's out. And as horrible as that is to look at it that way, I think the focus, let these guys fight for it. Let's have one of them earn it. I don't think you can get much worse than it did last year. You're going to see an improved focus on the defensive line. And if you have an improved defensive line and improved tactics and improved defensive, mindset, then, Bingham, Bond, Klinsmann, it really doesn't matter. It's going to be, more schemed than the player themselves. But
yeah, and Eric, you're cutting out again. That's okay. No, if you look at the goalkeeper situation where the LA Galaxy are right now, really on that goalkeeper side, you have basically 4 keepers. I don't have Klinsmann back on my list yet because he hasn't officially signed. But if you look, you have Eric Lopez, you have Justin Vom Steeg, you have Jonathan Bond, and then you're going to add Jonathan Klinsmann to that as well. So that is 4 goalkeepers. And so you're probably not going to get any more goalkeepers than that, because I expect that some of those guys like Eric Lopez and then maybe Justin Vom Steeg spend a lot of time with LA Galaxy too. But that's the developmental side of things that you have to sort of look at here. Is if you have 4 goalkeepers on your roster, you're probably not going out and getting a 5th. And so you have to keep in mind that it seems like, at least from how I build rosters, the LA Galaxy are done with goalkeepers. So that's sort of where we sit in that goalkeeper side, and we'll see whether or not they come out. I don't know if I've done this, but I can break a little bit of news, and it's not really that exciting, but it's at least something, Eric. It's at least a little bit more of something, which is that.
Tell us more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like this little tiny thing is Jonathan Bond came from West Brom on a free transfer. So the LA Galaxy did not spend any money for him. It wasn't announced in any of the things. It's just it was I asked and got an answer. Sometimes I figured that if it wasn't a free transfer, I wouldn't get an answer. So I was sort of waiting for that as well, because if there was any sort of money that changed hands. I was also told that deal happened very quickly. It's somebody that they had been monitoring. He was on a list of players, as we said. They sort of said, hey, maybe it's time. Maybe we can go ahead and get the this keeper. And they reached out to West Brom, and West Brom, who is in 19th of 20 last time I saw, and it could be that they've gone lower or they've jumped higher. But he has had he's basically been released from his contract at West Brom, and he wanted to come to LA, and so that's how that works. So the LA Galaxy don't pay anything for him. So does that make you feel any better, Hammer? That you didn't even pay any money for him now? You're just paying a salary?
Well, that's two things. You got him on a free transfer. That's one. And then two, you have someone who wants to come prove himself. So I think whenever you have someone who has that extra little fire to want to prove themselves, and when you look at the pedigree, someone who was a
All right, and we're gonna have Eric hang up and then call back because he keeps jumping back out and in. So we'll get Eric back on and see if maybe we can stabilize his internet connection. It's probably because his kids have figured out how to stream all their games, and so they're going through that. So it's fine. We'll continue
with
so one of those things that we look at. All right, so now you have Jonathan Bond, you have Jonathan Klinsmann. We've gone through there. We told you David Bingham's not returning. We're doing all of that. Okay. The roster now stands at 19 players. Okay. So you have 19 players currently on it. Now, there are 3 young players who we expect have signed with the LA Galaxy, which would push this into the 22. But they have not announced those signings, and we're expecting Jurgen Klinsmann. I'm going to keep saying it. We're expecting Jonathan Klinsmann to also re-sign. So now we're into 23 players. So with 23 and 7 spots open, that's where the LA Galaxy sort of sit there with a designated player spot open, understanding that there's no backup right back / starting right back. There's no right midfield at this time, really, and not even a backup right midfield. I mean, there's some holes to fill here, and basically 7 spots, maybe a little more depending on who they send down to LA Galaxy 2. And we've seen that a lot. All right. Can we get you back, Eric? Do you feel better?
I don't know what's going on. If I'm trying to do the stream, the kids aren't even with me today. They're staying at the grandparents. So I can't blame the iPads. I can't blame anything else. The internet should be good today. I don't know what's going on, but we'll see how it goes. I turned it off and turned it back on again. Usually that does the trick.
That does it. Have you tried turning it on, turning it back off again? It's good. It's the dogs. It's the dogs and
I'll blame the dogs. That's fair.
There you go. Before we get to roster stuff to sort of finish this out, you want to talk about colors for kits just for a second?
Do I?
Yeah,
absolutely. This is my bread and butter.
Why don't you say? I don't even need to talk about it. I mean, I have some news that I can say after you're done talking about this.
Yeah.
So don't ruin the part where I tell everybody the good news. You can tell them about the colors though.
Yeah, so this is something that, barring that I don't freeze, is an exciting thing to share, is that Footy Headlines, which if you follow them, it's a pretty reliable source that when it comes to jersey leaks, if you want to find out any jerseys that are leaking, they usually get that information before the general public releases that information. So they released that they have information on what the LA Galaxy 2021 away kit, what the colors are going to be. And so they got information from Adidas that the colors on the away kit are going to be black, tech green, and white. And so when you ask what is black, tech green, and white, if you look directly behind me, it's that 1997, 1998 colorway, that teal, green, and then the black, and then of course white, being it is what it is. I would have liked to see yellow, but depending on whatever the design is, I'm curious to see how it's going to work. If it's going to be stripes, just like the jersey behind me, or if they're going to have a different take on it altogether. I'm excited. I heard rumors from some people who maybe have been involved in the process, because Adidas does reach out to the club and reach out to some fans to be involved in the process of deciding what the look is going to be on these jerseys. So I'd heard some rumors that a throwback style jersey was going to be coming soon. So it was exciting to see. I'd heard yellow, I'd heard green. So excited to see this colorway. I think this is something, when you look back at the original, 96ers and the early or the late 2000s, the late 90s, early 2000s, that teal was a big part of the club. So to see it come back, I think it's an exciting thing.
Yeah, it is interesting to see that. I had heard rumors of a throwback kit. I actually heard rumors of a third kit. I will say that third kit rumors seem to be mellowing in terms of if that's a possibility. So right now, it looks like the second kit is going to be... Listen, if they come out with this and it's anywhere near what we are sort of used to in terms of that colorway and how it was sort of put together, Eric, I'm just going to tell you, just pre-order it when it comes out, because there aren't going to be any of these. This one feels like the one where... if you have kids and you want to buy this is the one where you buy your kids jerseys. So that way, when they're older, they have this one because having seen, the LA flag one, having seen, the third kit, black and golds, which is really, really dark blue and gold, if you want to get a technical on it, and doing that, you can just tell that this one is shaping up. And I don't know. I don't remember an excitement for this, for a kit just from the colors, for a very, very long time. This feels like it might be special.
Well, the last one was the LA flag one, and going back to regret, when that one first came out, even though it incorporated the older colors, I wasn't crazy about it. And then now looking back, it's like, yeah, that's one that I wish I would have had. It's one of those collector's items, especially some of the. And I've gone over this if you've read my jersey rankings that I've put up on the website. I think some of the performances in the jersey play a role in it. So that jersey that they wore, some of their performances wearing those jerseys were iconic, away at Seattle, some home games where they killed Chivas USA. I think that plays a big factor in it. And so the same thing with this jersey kind of holds a special place. This is one of, early Galaxy teams that were dominant. These are the colors that they wore. So it kind of brings that little extra something. So it is very exciting.
Yeah. It's by the way, I acknowledge that the LA flag kit is a iconic kit for the LA Galaxy. And I also acknowledge that I still don't like it. So yeah,
that's fair.
That's fine. Yeah. It's fine. I understand it. Here's the little bit of information. I know a lot of people weren't exactly thrilled with the 25th anniversary LA Galaxy home kit. I have been told, I don't have it 100% confirmed, but I feel this one's pretty good. It's good enough to tell you that the LA Galaxy will not only be getting a new second kit this year, they will be getting a new first kit as well. So you're going to get a new primary and a new secondary in 2021. I know there's people who just said, oh man, if you're going to have to cut the grass more and, get some up in your allowance, because with two kits coming out, you're going to probably want both of those. I don't know what the colorway, I imagine the colorway stays relatively the same, but probably gets rid of some of the silver, perhaps, of the 25th anniversary, which is silver anniversary. So yes.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions that I asked last year when it dropped, was it because it's the 25th anniversary kit, is this a one-off, or is this going to be the normal Adidas MLS cycle where they the jersey stays for 2 years? So the plan that I used to be on is, when the jersey comes out, that's your one jersey, and then they rotate the away kit or the home kit the following season. It looks like you're going to get 2 brand new kits, and then we'll see if the cycle continues. But it looks like that one was a one-off. And so to your point, even though you may not have liked how it looks, it is a collector's item. It was the 2020 season, whatever you say, it was a unique season. So that does become a little bit of a collector's item. And to your point about some of the elements going away, those same rumblings that I heard that a throwback was coming with old school colors, I've also heard rumors from the same people who were involved in this process that the sash will be going away. So the sash was something that's been part of the Galaxy's jersey identity. I'm a fan of it. I know not everyone's a fan of it, but they are going to move away from the sash, at least temporarily.
Well, the rebrand didn't have a sash in it, right? So there was no rebrand whenever they went, in that 2007, 2008, right? There was no sash, and the sash didn't return until 2012.
2012, yeah? After they won the cup. Yeah.
Okay, so that's when you've sort of seen the sash. So the sash has been around for a little while. So hey, we'll see. We'll see how it all ends up and how it all plays out, but that's what you're looking for. All right, let's go over some roster stuff here to sort of finish things out. I know we got about 8 or 9 minutes or so, and we can call it. I sort of went over the roster positions and where we're at in terms of filled. So currently 19 of 30 spots is the actual who is signed as of right now and announced right now. 19 of 30 spots. So the LA Galaxy have 11 spots to fill. 4 international slots are filled, which means there are 4 international slots available, which is really awesome when you consider that you have 19 players and you're only filling 4 international slots. Here's the other part that's awesome. Didi Traore is one of those international slots, and I don't necessarily know if I expect him to stay up with the LA Galaxy the entire year, which means if he goes away, the LA Galaxy would have 3 of 8 international slots filled. Lots of room to bring in some international talent for the LA Galaxy, and I imagine that they will be doing that. So That's one of the things. We also talked about the designated players. 2 designated player spots are filled, leaving 1 open. We expect right now Cristian Pavon fills that if they go out and get him, but somebody's going to fill that. It feels like the LA Galaxy have enough understanding that they're going to go ahead and do that. Only 2 players right now on the roster take up targeted allocation money. That's Pipo Gonzalez and Sebastian Lletget. That's your TAM players, and you have 5 players currently on the roster that are homegrowns. Efrain Alvarez, Eric Lopez, Cameron Dunbar, Jonathan Perez, and Ethan Zubak are the homegrown players that I have on the LA Galaxy roster as of right now. So that's where we stay with the LA Galaxy in terms of, where they're at. Here's the thing that is, I think it should excite people. Is that there is, even with 11 spots left to fill, and we've talked about Jonathan Klinsmann coming on, which would mean 10 spots left to fill and 3 others. So, there's some maybe of 7 or 8 or 9 spots that you still have to fill on this. Eric, it feels like looking at this, 1, the LA Galaxy don't have a starting lineup. 2 is that there is room to be able to do things that they want to do. It feels like they offloaded a bunch and they have some freedom there. Do you get that same sort of idea?
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin. The players that they have currently on the roster, we've gone over this, because there hasn't been tons of moves. This is not a roster that strikes fear. You think the players that they kept, maybe this isn't a good thing. But the other side of the coin, they have lots of international slots left. They have a lot of TAM to play around with, so that they're going to be able to splash some money. So if you look at Dennis Teclosa and you look at Greg Fanny, and they want to build and they want to bring in some high level talent, they have the resources to do so, and that's all on top of the fact that they're the LA Galaxy in Los Angeles and Southern California. That's a desirable market for European superstars and for other international superstars. So this is a lot of potential. So it's one of those things where, looking at the roster now, it's maybe not a great feeling, and so move ahead cautiously like I am. But at the same time, if they hit right, if they're able to make decisions and bring in the level of talent that is possible, that we've seen other clubs bring in, maybe not other clubs recently, especially some of those expansion teams, the players they've been able to bring in, if we're able to bring some of those level of players from South America, from Europe, I think there's a lot of potential for the Galaxy to bring in those right pieces and just give the time for Vanny and the players to gel and to be successful. So it is exciting as of right now. Not too exciting, but there's a lot of potential for excitement, which is why this is the best time of the season.
In terms of defenders and looking at starting lineups, if you figure that one of the Jonathans is a goalkeeper, which certainly they should be, the LA Galaxy have that position filled. If you're talking about the back line, I consider that the LA Galaxy have four starting players. You have Villafaña on the left, you have Pipo Gonzalez, you have Daniel Steres, you can flip-flop them however you want, and you have Julian Araujo. Nobody's going to argue with me that Julian Araujo is a starter on the right back side. Nobody's going to argue with me that Villafaña is a starter at the left back side. People will argue with me that Dan Steres or Pipo Gonzalez should be starters. And in my mind, with the amount of money and the number of center backs that you have, you probably get to add one center back. He's probably more of a backup or maybe a borderline starter than it is just a straight up, you're bringing somebody in to replace somebody else. Pipo Gonzalez is a targeted allocation money player. He better be playing. Otherwise, the LA Galaxy are absolutely wasting that money, just throwing it away and burning it. The only other thing you could do with Pipo Gonzalez, Eric, is you could trade him. You could get him gone. There was rumors that possibly Alajuelense were interested in him. I haven't seen that sort of play out, and that's sort of disappointing. So, but I don't know.
I think he's telegraphed himself that that's the next move. That's where, that's kind of like his home club. That's where he's going to end up. That's where he's going to wrap up his career. So it's just a matter of time. Does that club, are they going to waste it, trying to get him early, or they know he's coming once he becomes available? So why rush it? So I think it's just a matter of time.
Yep, that's right. That's Pipo Rivera for the throwback on the show, for everybody who's there. So that's where you sit there. The LA Galaxy absolutely missing a right wing. They don't have one and they don't have a backup. So you're looking at two players that need to slide into that right wing at least. I'd love to have somebody who floats around in there. You have Jonathan Dos Santos, which is a starter. He'll play in the center and midfield. I do not have a defensive midfielder right now, unless you're going to tell me Sacha Kljestan's going to play every minute of every game, which he's not. Then I think you're missing somebody in the center and midfield with Jonathan Dos Santos. I think that you're going to need to bring somebody in. The guy who I would bring in is Perry Kitchen, and I would bring Perry Kitchen back. He is out of contract. Let's see, I want to make sure that that's 100%. Yeah, he's out of contract. So the LA Galaxy get to negotiate a new contract with him. Knowing and speaking to people, Perry Kitchen would be more than welcome to come back to the LA Galaxy. I think he would like to come back to the LA Galaxy. The number has to be right, and if not, he'll go somewhere else. And he is, sort of the journeyman MLS guy after he came back from Scotland. He was in Scotland for a little bit.
Yep.
After he's come back from Scotland, he's a guy who would be wanted on other teams. So I think if you put a fair contract in there, so that way he doesn't have to move, so you get him for another 2 years. He doesn't take up an international slot, as Aaron has pointed out in the chat room. So I would think that you bring back Perry Kitchen, and that sort of solidifies for me a midfield. You have Perry Kitchen in there, you have Jonathan Dos Santos, you have Sacha Kljestan, you have Sebastian Lletget in those areas, and then you have Efrain Alvarez, who's going to fill in some of those as well. So there's a lot of reasons to believe that the LA Galaxy have a midfield that they can work around, but you still need a right wing and a right wing backup, and that you have to fix that problem.
I'll push back a little bit, because you just named the Galaxy midfield that we just saw this season, and just subtracting Joe Corona, and it wasn't great. And that's granted that Jonathan was out with injury. So I think there's still, you still need, that another midfield piece in there. I think when you think about Jonathan Dos Santos, I see him working best as that CDM, hanging back more defensively. So I think bringing someone up to work with Lletget, to be playing more attacking, I think that's the type of guy that they need to look for, not necessarily another defensive midfielder. If they can get Perry Kitchen, it's all about price. If the price is right, again, domestic player, I think he played well last season, but the Galaxy as constructed right now, it's the same midfield that they had last season, minus some players, and they weren't successful. So I think they do need someone in the middle to pull the strings.
Yeah, there's rumors of perhaps an addition in there as well. So we'll see. I don't have names. We talked about Victor Vasquez, I think, on the last show, just as somebody who had mentioned that possibly he'd want to go play for Greg Vanney again. You are going to get some of those guys who want to come down and play for Greg Vanney. So perhaps that's an option in the center midfield. But I think he's 33 years old. So you're not exactly, Sacha Kljestan and Victor Vasquez. You have both of those guys there. I mean, they can each play a half, I guess, if you really want to. The whole thing with Sacha Kljestan is he's not a 90-minute player, and you can't expect him to play, every other day. And if that's going to be the format, then he's not going to be as useful to you as a guy who could come in and play the last 30 minutes of the game whenever you need to control things or, find a goal or that type of thing. Sacha Kljestan can be super useful. He just wasn't able to be used that way during a pandemic, playing every other day, and with, some of the players that they had in the center and midfield. So they have some stuff. You're right. And it's rightfully to call me out for that. They need to do something in the center and midfield to change things to make them different than what they were. I also think possibly with some better tactics at that midfield will be better as well. So we'll see how that goes. The last one, Jonathan Dos Santos, Chicharito up top will be the starter for the LA Galaxy. I mean, I hope that's not controversial. I almost don't know how to approach this on this podcast, Eric. You tell me if you think I'm being, but it doesn't look like Chicharito and his wife are exactly getting along, being they're currently in different countries. It's like a rumor that's out there and certainly been, and then Chicharito's sort of already putting on the revenge body. So to me, it feels like, you're like, I'm not touching this one.
No, I'm touching it 100%, because this is the off-season show. There's no games. We're going to talk jerseys. We're going to talk video games, and we're going to talk Instagram drama. I think if you've been reading kind of between the lines, Chicharito and his wife and the Mexican tabloids have been all over it, that, they didn't spend Christmas together. It doesn't seem like, they have that familial marriage going on right now. So it seems like she is out of the country. She has the kids with her. Chicharito seems to be at home. Heavy focus on working out. He's running every day. He's, showing off his diet, shows what he's eating. It seems, and again, we're not going to cast judgment on anybody for what it is, but it seems like maybe there was a lot of stress going on in his life, possibly stress going on in his marriage, and it may have contributed to what we saw, the end product be on the field, maybe what his body looked like a little bit. And I think we're seeing someone who, like you said, has a bit of a revenge bod, has a lot to prove, is aware of what people were saying about him, and is making a conscious effort. I got into this a little bit this week on Twitter as well. Every time the Galaxy posts, Chicharito posts, he's saying something positive about the team, positive about the coach. He's welcomed every signing. So this is someone who's bringing a new level of focus and being locked in to the 2021 season. You can cast your doubt on him for not necessarily bringing it when he first arrived last season, but this season he looks like a changed person and someone who's going to be out for revenge and do something different. I'm a big believer in what the Instagram tells you a big story, and I think that the Instagram tells you that you're going to see something different from Chicharito this year.
It feels that way. I don't know. At least he is projecting that aura around him, which is better than the aura of I had one too many Twinkies. So having said that, it feels more positive. We're going to see. Greg Vanney understands what Chicharito is. Greg Vanney understands what he needs to do to get Chicharito in positions to score. If Chicharito is in shape and able to do that and is focused, the LA Galaxy could be at the precipice of a resurgent Chicharito who goes in and just tears MLS a new one. It is absolutely a possibility because he has the ability to score goals. We know that. You need to put him in the right position. You need to do all those things. Is it hopeful at this point? Yeah, but it's the offseason. Everything's hopeful. Right now, any roster can win an MLS Cup. And as David Bingham once said, I expect that we're going to play for an MLS Cup. So and that was preseason and they didn't. So, I think they missed the playoffs then. So, that's how you look at it. Is you look at it and say, okay, there's some holes in this roster for sure, but with the space available, I think you should be hopeful. Now, as that space gets filled, you can be cynical again. I think that's perfectly fair.
Yeah.
But the LA Galaxy have a roster where they're able to build and do things. So I think that's where I'll cut off the roster debate for now. We have lots of time still in the offseason to talk about rosters, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk about it. You wanted to talk a little bit about what Liga G96? Is that what? Did I get it right?
I was going to say, don't act like you don't know. Don't play coy with me, Guesman. It's Liga G96, so you're absolutely right. Season 3, because we're in the off season, we're missing soccer. This is our PlayStation FIFA League that was started at the beginning of the pandemic, kind of blew up, started with 6 teams. There are now 11 teams. So now over 100 players. There's people streaming the games. There's teams who have come up with jerseys. So there's multiple teams now. You can buy their jerseys. So it's kind of grown into this crazy thing. And the Corner of the Galaxy website is hosting a lot of that information. So the schedule dropped. Season 3 is going to start on January 24th, which is a Sunday. And then from there on, there'll be a game at least every week, and then some midweek games as well. There's going to be some of them broadcast on what we call GSPN for your Galaxy sports programming network. And there's going to be some people calling the games. We're in some negotiations to get some podcasters to possibly call a game. So you might be expecting a text here soon to broadcast one of these games. There's awards. There's the winning team gets a signed Galaxy jersey, or the MVP gets a signed Galaxy jersey. The team gets a trophy and LA Galaxy jerseys. A Golden Boot winner gets some things. Defensive Player of the Year. It's turned into this whole thing. So if you want more information on it, shout out to the community. It's bringing Galaxy fans together. It's a lot of fun. I've joined a new team. I'm now part of the Baracheks team. Cosmo has now disbanded and kind of spread out around the league. So there's free agent drama. It's just a lot of fun. So I encourage you to go to the Corner of the Galaxy website, click on the Liga G page, check out the schedule, follow them on Twitter, which is at Liga G _96. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. I wasn't able to necessarily dedicate a lot of time to it for season 2, but season 3 looks like players are really excited. There are some people who bought the game just so they can be a part of the league. And that's what it's all about. It's, you get on the banter, you talk with one another and have a lot of fun, and brings that community closer. So big shout out to Liga G. And if you've been following, continue to follow, check out the website.
All right. Very cool. Big shout out to Francisco Reyes for a little super chat in there. Thank you, Francisco. Appreciate that. Always great. And I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Eric, tell people where they can find you. We're gone.
As always, you can find me on Twitter at HammerEV. You could also find me on Instagram at The Professional Foul. That's at Galaxy Pro Foul. That's Galaxy PROFOUL.
All right. And if you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. cornerofthegalaxy.com. All of our articles are there. All of our fun stuff, including podcasts, videos, all that stuff right there, cornerofthegalaxy.com. All right. Lots more off-season shows to come. Another show on Monday night will be coming out, so make sure you check that out. And then back here on next Thursday for a live show. Live shows Thursday, 8 p.m. Pretty much every Thursday. All right. For Eric the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Pato Guesman, and you've been listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.